Welcome, everyone, mentors and mentees. We are so happy to have Rosie DeVito, our program and operations manager at NEHA. She's worked with NEHA since 2019 in her project management role, fulfilling a scope of work of deliverable timelines, budgets, reporting, and risk assessments. She's currently oversees a multi-million-dollar FDA-funded program to support state, local, and tribal and territorial districts in advancing and to the retail program standards. Rosie oversees this team of project coordinators, data analysis, and in addition to federally funded work, Rosie provides operational insight, implements workflow efficiencies to the organization. Rosie holds a Master of Public Health from the University of Buffalo, project management professional certification from the Project Management Institute. She is dedicated to the field of environmental public health and is committed to delivering high quality professional program management. And we are so grateful to have her sharing her project management, time management, and productivity tips and tricks today. Thank you so much for joining us, Rosie.
Thank you for having me. Can you see my screen okay?
We can, yes.
Okay. Awesome. All right, so I'll just get started then. So hi everyone. Thank you for joining today and welcome to the project and time management webinar. As Brandy said, I'm Rosie DeVito. I'm really excited to nerd out with you guys today about time management and project management. So let's get started. All right, so the goal of everything today is really to give you kind of a structure and some tools to be successful. What I'm going to be presenting doesn't need to be implemented exactly how I present it or followed step by step, but you can use it as a guide for planning your projects. And I hope the webinar today inspires you to come up with some new ideas on staying organized and being successful in your current role and in upcoming projects that you might have. So here's our 3 learning objectives for today. So the first is to introduce the fundamentals of project management, then understand how and when to apply time management best practices, and identifying tools and resources to aid in time management. So these here are really the larger phases of what a project life cycle can look like. I'm going to be demonstrating throughout the webinar today how time management can be integrated into project management during many of these stages. You'll see a lot of these concepts, especially the ones that are bolded, repeated throughout the presentation in relation to time management. So I'll just do a brief overview of each of the phases here. So let's start with initiation. This is really where every project begins. The key component here is the project charter, which is a document that formally authorizes a project and provides a clear summary of its objectives and scope. You also have the business case and role identification that usually happen in the initiation phase. Next, we'll move on to the planning phase, which is the foundation of project management. So here, this is where we develop our project plan, which outlines how to execute, monitor, and close our project. We'll also focus on project scheduling and time management to ensure that timelines are realistic and adhered to. And then we also, in the planning phase, have a detailed risk identification and mitigation planning to foresee and handle potential challenges. I'm not really going to talk about that much today, but at least you know that that's part of this this phase. We also have budget and resource planning in the planning phase as well. And next is the execution, monitoring, and control, where the actual work begins. So this phase, I kind of squished 2 phases together just for the sake of simplicity. You know, sometimes you'll see it as execution is its own phase and monitoring control are separate, but I put them together because they often happen simultaneously. And so this is really crucial for managing communication to ensure information flows effectively between stakeholders and the project team. It also includes the monitoring of project activities to ensure the project remains on track and within budget. We also have stakeholder engagement here, which I'll talk about a little bit later. And it's really critical in this phase to maintain support and manage expectations and scope. This is also where you'll be managing the budget, managing risks, and looking at evaluation and quality improvement. And then finally, the last step here is the closure phase, which marks the completion of the project. So this is where we'll get our final approvals. We'll ensure all the deliverables are met and meet the standards of who our sponsors are. This is where you close out contracts, which formalizes the completion of any agreements, and final reporting of the outcomes to our sponsor, owners, and stakeholders. All right, so within the first phase of the project management is the project charter. So this is a really important document to develop. And I just want to show you really quick what a project charter looks like and how to kind of develop one and what components you might have in a project charter. So just to put this into context, we'll take a quick look at the structure and purpose of it by using a practical example. In this case, I just made up a project, which is the Food Safety Training Initiative. And so the project charter really should be a summary of what the project proposes and plans to do and can be used to guide discussions on getting approval for that project to begin. And this is really important to go over in relation to time management, because this is really where the wheels start turning and you have to consider every aspect of a project in order to ensure time efficiency. So let's start at the top here with the background section. So this part really sets the stage for why the project is necessary. For our example, we're using the Food Safety Training Initiative, and that was created because of identified inconsistencies in food safety practices among staff. So this section really should just clearly outline the existing problem that the project aims to solve, giving stakeholders a clear understanding of the project's importance. And so within that, you have the problem statement. The problem statement really just defines the specific issue that the project will address. So here, the problem is that the current level of training is inadequate, which leads to potential risks in food handling and food safety. And so you really want to make sure you have a well-defined problem statement that helps to ensure that everyone involved understands what the project needs to achieve. The goal outlines what the project aims to accomplish. So in our case, the goal is to improve food safety practices by achieving a 95% compliance rate with our revised training program. So it's really important to be clear to provide a target for the project team to aim. And then lastly, in the background section, we have the proposed idea. So this is where you kind of just describe your planned solution to the problem. For our initiative, it involves implementing a comprehensive training program tailored to the needs of our staff. And this section should really just detail how you intend to solve the problem and achieve the project goals. And then the next section is the project details. Here we specify who will manage the project, the project duration, and the team involved. So for instance, Jane Doe is our project manager, leading a team of a training planner and a project manager from January 2025 to December 2025. And so this section organizes the project's operational framework. The deliverables and metrics define what the project will produce and how success will be measured. So for this instance, we have our project will aim to develop a new curriculum, train 95% of staff, and establish a continuous education track. The effective deliverables are measurable and directly tied to the project goals. And then finally, the resources section just kind of outlines, gives an overview of the budget, materials, and other resources that are needed to achieve the project goals. So for this food safety training initiative, this includes a $10,000 budget from the state health department and the materials like training modules and digital learning management system. So understanding the basic components of a project charter will help you with planning, executing, and managing your projects. Each part of the charter serves to guide the project from conception to completion, ensuring that it aligns with organizational goals and efficient use of resources. So these are just general sections that I like to include in a project charter. Sections obviously will change depending on what the project is and what the needs are. It might be more detailed than this, it might be less detailed than this. So it really just depends on the project and who you're proposing the idea to. All right, so I really wanted to highlight stakeholder engagement here because this is really important to include every step of the way. So you want to include your stakeholders in discussions about what activities should be completed, how to schedule time, how long they'll take, and how to budget. So people who are stakeholders really want to be involved in the success of the project. And it really depends on who is working on it. So this is really the only way to accurately predict how much time each activity will take, what the dependencies are, and where efficiencies can be implemented. So the first step here is to identify stakeholders and project staff. This might happen simultaneously to the project charter being developed. You can include some of these identified stakeholders to help you create your project charter. This is also important because you will need to get buy-in from those who will be participating in the project. I like to create what is called a stakeholder matrix, which essentially lists all the stakeholders, what their expertise is, what they're involved in regarding the project, and their contact information. This can be in any format that suits you as a project manager. I usually just use Excel for this. Next, you will want to consult with your stakeholders to refine the project charter and brainstorm activities and ideas for the project. Brainstorming sessions can be virtual or in person. You can keep them structured or unstructured, and you can record them if you need to. I like to use an AI tool when I host brainstorming sessions to ensure that I capture everyone's ideas, and it helps me summarize those into activities. After you consult and brainstorm with your stakeholders, you'll need to build your project schedules. This is a really important step for time management. So based on the outcomes of the brainstorming sessions, you'll be able to define those activities and major milestones. In order to track it and be successful in maintaining an overall timeline, you'll need to determine the project schedule and identify who's going to be responsible for each activity. You can transfer this to a work breakdown structure, a general timeline, a Gantt chart, or just simply use Excel. Stakeholders are the ones who are going to be either completing the project work or benefiting from the project work. So you'll want to use what expertise you have from them to determine the steps to completing this project. Once you have your project schedule, you'll need to establish an internal communication channel. You want to talk to your stakeholders and your team to determine their communication preferences and meeting cadence preferences. Keep in mind that this can change throughout the project cycle, depending on the needs of the project. And next, you will want to identify risks and how to mitigate those risks. Make sure your stakeholders and SMEs are included in this process, as they have likely experienced a similar project and will likely be involved in mitigation or responding to risks should they arise. And finally, we want to identify metrics for evaluation using tools like a logic model to better help us work with stakeholders to identify metrics that can show us where improvements and efficiencies can be made. And this includes time management and time efficiencies. All right, so I'm not going to go through this one by one. It's just an example of a project activity schedule. It can be super easy to build something like this. You can use Excel or one of the project management software programs that I'll mention later on, which I would highly recommend. You can include any columns you like, but generally this is what I have is the activity, who it's assigned to, target dates, actual date status, and percentage completed. The project activity tracker is really meant to be a living document. If you use project management software, it makes it even easier and can automate it. This is the perfect time to integrate some time management techniques into your schedule. And I'll go into more details about that on the next few slides. But when you're developing your project schedule, you should consider how long it takes to complete each activity, what resources you need to complete them, what's priority, what tasks are dependent on others, and all of this will really help you manage your time appropriately. Like I said before, involving stakeholders is one of the most important concepts in project management and will allow you to engage in effective time management. Okay, so this is one way to display your project schedule, and this is a Gantt chart. So some of you might have heard of this before. In order to create a Gantt chart, the main components that you really need are your activities and tasks, the start and end dates, and then you can see those bars on there, which represent the tasks. The length and position reflects the start date, duration, and end date. So this is just a very basic Gantt chart that I created just for the purposes of this webinar. So what I guess I want to talk about next, what we can do with the Gantt chart to ensure effective time management. So the first important thing that I want to talk about is visualizing the project timeline. So by laying out all the tasks on a timeline like this, the Gantt chart can provide a clear overview of the entire project. This visualization helps you understand what needs to be done and what's crucial for effective planning and scheduling. You can see, you might have multiple activities scheduled during the same time. Simultaneously, you might have a big gap somewhere. It's really just intended to provide an overview of the project schedule. You can also use it to identify dependencies. So Gantt charts are really great for showing how tasks are interdependent. And you can see at a glance which tasks need to be completed before others can begin, which helps you prioritize effectively and manage your time accordingly. And a lot of times with programs, like I used Monday.com to create this one, you can put dependencies into it, and so those will actually be reflected. I didn't do that for this, but you'll see like arrows that can reflect when the end of one activity depends on the beginning of another, or vice versa. You can also use Gantt charts to track your progress. You can update them as tasks are completed, providing real-time visual representation. So here I have any tasks that are completed are green, any tasks in progress are yellow, and tasks that have not been started yet are blue. So it really just makes it easy to identify if you're ahead of schedule, on schedule, behind schedule, and adjust your plans and resources as you need to. And speaking of resources, it's also great for resource management. So Gantt charts will allow you to allocate resources effectively, ensuring that you don't overcommit your team on multiple tasks at the same time. And you can really schedule work based on your available resources, and that can help avoid bottlenecks and manage workloads a little bit more efficiently. And finally, enhancing communication. So Gantt charts are easy to understand. It's pretty basic. When you just look at it, you have a pretty good idea of where you're at with the project and where it's going. And so they can be used as a communication tool to help keep all your stakeholders informed about progress and expected deadlines. This transparency helps with setting realistic expectations and helps to foster a collaborative work environment. All right, and the next tool that I want to show you is called a Kanban. This is another way to visualize project status and timeline if you include that. So each column here represents a stage or status in your project. So the columns we have here are not started, in progress, and done. And then each card represents an activity. So these are the cards: activity 5, 6, 7, 3, 4, 1, 2. And you can set limits for in progress work to prevent overloading work. And this can be used in time management in a few ways. Again, visualizing your work. So this is a really good advantage of the Kanban, is that its ability to make the work visible. You can easily see what needs to be done, what's currently being worked on, and what's already been completed. It helps with allocating time and planning more effectively. Like I said, you can also limit work in progress. So you can limit the number of tasks that are in this in progress phase right here. And it helps you, people on the team focus on completing current tasks before starting new ones. And it will improve your efficiency and reduces time wasted on context switching. Enhanced flexibility. The Kanban is highly adaptable, so it allows you to adjust your workflow in real time based on the current needs and conditions. This flexibility ensures that you can always manage your time and resources in the most effective way possible. And improving productivity. Since the Kanban emphasizes completing tasks and moving them to this done section, it creates a sense of achievement and momentum among team members. This can lead to increased motivation and productivity, which are really critical for good time management. And finally, streamlining processes. So over time, the use of the Kanban can help identify bottlenecks and inefficiencies in processes by seeing who's assigned to each task and how long it's taking. Addressing these issues can lead to smoother workflows and reduced cycle times, allowing for better time management and forecasting. So this is, again, I use Monday.com to create this one. This is very basic. You can add more details to this, like, a description of the activity, who it's assigned to, when it's due, and it'll give you kind of a snapshot of where each of the activities are in your project. And so this one, this was easy to create because it was in Monday.com. I use project management software to create this, and it was really helpful in automating. So anytime you have an update to an activity, it'll automatically update the Kanban. You can do this manually. A lot of times you'll see it in person on a whiteboard or some kind of chart in person that you'll be able to see. But I really like this because you can automate it through your project management software. All right, so time management, really what we're talking about is organizing and planning how to divide your time between specific activities. So we're really trying to focus on how to work smarter and not harder so that you can get more done in less time. The ultimate goal is to enhance efficiency, like I mentioned a few times, productivity and effectiveness by prioritizing tasks and activities, reducing wasted time, and improving the overall workflow. And so I'm just going to briefly describe some of these. I'll provide some resources that will allow you to learn a little bit more about these techniques. But the first one here is prioritization. So it involves ranking tasks based on their urgency and importance. This technique helps in identifying which tasks should be tackled first to have the greatest impact on project success. Then we have task batching. Task batching involves grouping similar tasks together to perform them consecutively in a dedicated time frame. This reduces the time lost to task switching and increases your focus and efficiency on each task. And time blocking is the practice of allocating specific blocks of time on your calendar for individual tasks or groups of tasks. So this includes not only work on tasks, but also breaks and personal time to ensure that you have a balanced schedule. And this is something that I personally use on my own calendar. So I find that when I allocate specific amounts of time to projects and activities, I'm able to limit distractions. If my time is blocked off, I also usually don't get meeting requests during that time. So it really gives me dedicated time to focus on a specific task. And so those are just general techniques, but there's also hundreds of tools and apps out there that you can use to help manage your time. If you do a quick Google search, there will be a ton that come up, but a couple that I like and have used before are Rescue Time. They have a focus session feature, which blocks off notifications and sets reminders to take breaks. I've also used Clockify before, and that really helps to see how long it takes to complete certain tasks and how many times you get distracted and see where you can be a little bit more efficient. I also just discovered like 45 minutes ago that if you have Microsoft, you can turn off your notifications on your computer, and you can do like a little focus thing, and it'll set a reminder every 20 minutes or however long you set it for to take a break. So it's just like really focuses your time through your desktop. So it'll actually turn off all your notifications. All right, so now that we've covered the basics in managing projects and just a couple of tools for time management, I wanted to talk about some best practices where time management can be integrated. The first is communicate. So you want your communication to be clear, frequent, and direct. Effective communication really ensures that everyone on your team has the necessary information to execute their tasks properly. You can achieve this by holding regular meetings, using your project management tools, and establishing open lines of communication for feedback. And next is planning timelines, which is one of the most important for time management. You really want to be realistic and be flexible. Make sure you engage with the team members, your stakeholders who will perform the tasks to estimate the time that is needed realistically. You'll want to include buffers if you can for potential delays and unexpected issues, which is actually a risk mitigation technique. You can use tools like the Gantt chart and the Kanban boards to visualize and track progress. Collaborate. So collaboration focuses on, fostering a sense of community and shared responsibility, which can lead to more innovative solutions and ideas and better project outcomes. So you really want to encourage team meetings where everyone can contribute ideas. Use your collaborative tools that you have. So whether that's a virtual whiteboard and a real whiteboard if you're in person, shared documents. We use SharePoint here at NEHA. All of these can really facilitate ongoing collaboration, and you want to ensure that all stakeholders have the opportunity to provide input. Next is goal setting. So goals really give the project and the team a direction and a clear benchmark for success. You want to set your SMART goals, which are specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. And they need to align with the overall objectives of the project. You want to regularly review your goals and adjust them as needed based on the project progress and team feedback. So again, that goes back into the flexibility piece of this. Next is sustainability. So one way to build sustainability within your project and within your team is to have comprehensive documentation. it ensures that the intellectual capital doesn't leave when people do. So you want to document all your processes, decisions, and changes, and use a centralized document management system where all team members can access and update files as needed. You want to regularly back up and update your documentation. And this is also another mitigation technique for staff turnover. And it really is helpful for time management because if you ever do need to start over or see, where a decision was made, it's easy to find this documentation and you don't have to chase people down or, start from the beginning because you're not sure where documentation is. So it really is a time saver as well. And evaluate. So evaluation helps to understand what works and what doesn't. So you want to work with a professional who has expertise in evaluation, and you want to develop an evaluation plan, and conduct a post-project review to see what went well and what could be improved. And you want to use the insights gained to refine processes and improve future project outcomes. So this is really where your quality improvement comes in, and you'll be able to, make things a little bit more efficient, time-wise, and allocate your resources appropriately when you do a regular evaluation of how the project is doing. Lastly, maybe most importantly, at least it's my favorite, is to celebrate. So you really want to make sure that you celebrate your milestones and project completion. It really can boost morale of the team and motivate the team. You'll want to acknowledge individual and team contributions formally and informally. Celebrate major milestones and completion with events or just acknowledgements that highlight the hard work and success of the team. These practices can help guide effective project management, especially in dynamic fields like environmental health, where projects can have significant implications and approaches are ever changing. So these are just a few tools and resources out there that are designed to help you be a great project manager and time manager. The Project Management Institute, or PMI, has tons of resources online for free to help you learn more about project management. There's also a Google Project Manager certificate that you can earn, which takes you through trainings to help you learn and apply your project management skills. You can find more trainings and courses for free on sites like Coursera, edX, and LinkedIn Learning. Common project management tools are Monday.com, which is what me and my team use, like Microsoft Project and Asana. Additionally, as I mentioned earlier, there's some tracking tools that you can use. You can download them as an extension on your browser, like Clockify and Rescue Time. There's a ton of resources out there for you to learn more about project management and time management in your current role. So I would suggest taking a look at some of these and maybe doing some more research too. And I'm happy to help provide more information about that as well. So before we wrap up today's webinar, I just want to point out a few things that I think you can all start doing right now that will help manage time and project activities. So the first is daily planning. I want you to start each day with a plan. So take a look at your calendar, take a look at your to-do list, and prioritize them. So use what you already have to do this. So you can use your Outlook or Google Calendar. I use my Outlook calendar. This is when I do time blocking every day. You can use Microsoft's Task Planner. You can use Excel. All of these are tools that are readily available to you to be able to plan your day out and use your time more efficiently. Next is limit distractions. You can minimize your interruptions by trying one of the tools that I recommended earlier. You can turn your phone off or on Do Not Disturb, turn your desktop notifications off, and really just use your time efficiently to focus on the tasks that you're doing. And the last one is maybe a little controversial, but it is to decline requests or say no. In order to, really manage your time effectively, you want to make sure that you have the time to do the tasks that you're being asked to do. So you want to gather all your relevant information, and that'll help you determine if a task or a project that someone's maybe requesting of you to do is feasible, and that you have availability to do it and it's within your skill set. This is something I personally struggle with. I know a lot of people can relate to that, but ensuring that you're not overloading or overworking yourself is really important to not only the success of the project, but your own well-being. Like I said earlier, it's important to take care of yourself and your team, celebrate your wins, and that will help you be a little bit more efficient with managing your time. So my hope is that some of these skills or concepts are translatable to your work and can really help you keep your schedule balanced and efficient. So thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you can take some of these methods learned today to help manage your current projects and implement new ones. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Rosie. I'm going to go ahead and unmute everybody, or give you the ability to unmute if you would like to go ahead and speak up and ask a question to Rosie. I have one question for you, though, to start. I was wondering if you have any sort of program recommendations for somebody who, like myself, I have a lot of one-off smaller projects, and a lot of times I'm working on them by myself. So it seemed like some of the other programs like Monday and Asana were maybe developed more for larger projects and teams working on them. So do you have any recommendations?
Yeah, so I use monday.com for my own personal tasks and things that I have to keep track of. So you can still do that, but if that's all you're doing, then really it might not be worth it to purchase a subscription to a software like that. It might be a little bit more intense than what you need if you're not using it to its full advantage. So sometimes what I also do is use Microsoft Planner. There's like it's not Microsoft Project, which is a project management tool, but there's also within Teams, there's a little icon that says Planner or Task Planner. And that is really a great way to, categorize your projects and list activities that you need to do. And you can just keep it private to yourself and not assign anything to anyone either. It's much simpler than, a subscription software.
Great, thank you. I've seen that there. I haven't checked it out, so I'll try to do that.
Yeah.
And it looks like Brandy just posted a question in there. Brandy, do you want to go ahead and ask it?
Sure. How do you determine when you have so many different priorities, which tasks should take precedent? And then how do you adjust when the situation changes and those things need to shift?
Mm-hmm. That's a really good question. So it really depends on the situation. I like to ask myself specific questions whenever I find myself getting overwhelmed and I need to prioritize tasks. And so some of those questions that I like to ask are, what is the potential impact of this task? Are there other tasks that are dependent on the completion of this one? So is someone else waiting for me to complete this one so that they can do their work? Was there a buffer time scheduled in the project schedule that will allow me to be a couple days late on this? Or do I really need to get it done right now? Also, how long is it going to take me to complete the task? Or, sometimes is there anyone else available who can complete the task instead of me? Which is, again, it's hard for people. It's hard for me to do that sometimes. I like to take on a lot more work than I have time for. So it is hard to do that sometimes, but it really is to the benefit of the entire project if you're able to, recognize that you have limitations and ask for help from your teammates. You can do a formal, like ranking of these based on this. Sometimes I do that when I just have so much that I need to get myself organized. Or you can really just do a gut check and just say like, okay, here's the task that I need to do. This one's really important to get done. I'm gonna make sure I schedule time to do this right now.
Great, thank you, Rosie. I'm not seeing any other questions in the chat. Really appreciate your time today.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you so much. I've got my LinkedIn up here and my email. So anyone who has questions or just wants to chat, nerd out some more about project management, I'm always happy to talk about it. Really appreciate your time today. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. And for everybody else on the call or on the webinar, we will be circulating the recording of this webinar. Just give us a couple days and we'll get that out there. Thanks again, Rosie. Thanks, everybody.